Happy New Year, everyone. With the new year comes myriad new game releases and, of course, prediction time. My name is Michael Richardson, and join with me is fellow gaming enthusiast Steven Tomaino to discuss our predictions and hopes for Nintendo in 2023. Steven, once again, thank you so much for taking the time to speak with me for this discussion. Shaping out to be a really fun one.
Yeah, thanks for having me. I'm so excited to discuss what the future is going to hold here for Nintendo.
Oh, I can't wait. I can't wait. There's a lot, believe me, we're about to discuss. And let's start off by taking a quick look at what Nintendo already has scheduled for this year. It's actually quite a bit. We normally really don't know too much going into a year, but with this year, Nintendo's given us a little bit of an idea what is coming down the pipeline. Starting off in just a few short weeks in January, we have Fire Emblem Engage on January 20th, the sequel to Fire Emblem Three Houses, long awaited, long rumored. This is the next entry in the Fire Emblem franchise. And in February, on February 17th, we have my next vacation spot, Super Nintendo World in Hollywood, California, is opening up. Of course, it previously opened up in Japan over a year ago, and now it's coming west to the United States. And a week after that, on February 24th, is Kirby's Return to Dreamland Deluxe. Now, in March, this was announced at the Game Awards, certainly one of the more unexpected announcements, but it's Nintendo. It's almost predictable how unexpected they'll be. Bayonetta Origins, Cereza and the Lost Demon. This is a spin-off of the Bayonetta franchise. Certainly looks a bit less action-focused, but we don't know too much about the game, so that one will be interesting to look at. In April, on April 7th, the Super Mario Brothers movie. Of course, we got Chris Pratt as Mario, Luigi, Charlie Day as Luigi, a bunch of famous actors. Well, I'm sure we'll be discussing that in this conversation. And then in May, just a tiny one, just tiny one, The Legend of Zelda: Tears of the Kingdom. It's finally coming out on May 12th. But there are also a few games we don't have concrete release dates for, but some people think they may release this year. Pikmin 4 is currently slated for 2023. We still don't know when Advance Wars 1+2 Reboot Camp will come out. And there's the big one, Metroid Prime 4. We still really don't have much information on that. So, Steven, that's quite a few games. What do you think of that lineup just starting off? Are you happy with that? Do you want to see more? How are you feeling?
Yeah, so right off the bat, I do think it's a pretty strong lineup that we have to look forward to. I'm especially excited about Pikmin 4 because Pikmin has always been one of my favorite franchises from Nintendo. And, for years before this, there was constant speculation and about Pikmin 4 coming out, and we got Hey Pikmin on the 3DS, and some people were saying that was Pikmin 4, and it was kind of a whole mess almost. And I'm so excited that there actually is another mainline Pikmin game that's coming out now finally. So I'm really excited about that. And also, definitely Bayonetta Origins for sure is a really interesting curveball to kind of throw in there. And I think that's gonna be really fun though to see how that's gonna be when it actually comes out.
It's fascinating because even when Bayonetta 3 was revealed back in the Game Awards in 2017, that was a kind of out of left field announcement, at least to me. That was announced alongside Bayonetta 1 and 2 being remastered to Switch, being ported to the Switch. And now with this one, I don't think anyone had that on their 2022 bingo cards, Bayonetta Origins. Now, I'm not going to lie to you. Bayonetta 3, I really enjoyed it, but was personally quite disappointed in its story. But this Bayonetta Origins seems to be putting a bit more of an emphasis on the story, so I don't know exactly what they're going to do. Certainly they're going towards a younger Bayonetta. You got Cheshire in there. But the art style certainly looks really, really pretty, but I need to see more from that game. But certainly if we get more sort of unexpected releases, as we've seen, those are the ones that sort of make me the happiest because I want to be surprised. And as much as we get all these sequels, seeing something different, even in the same franchise like this, I think is really, really cool. But I'll also allude to Pikmin. Yeah, you've been clamoring for that game pretty much as much as I've known you.
Yeah.
Do you think it will actually make it this year? or
I do think it will, honestly. I'm thinking it'll come, a little later on in the year, but I think it'll make it.
do you, all right, I'll go off of that. I guess this will be the first official prediction. Pikmin 4, I agree. I think it will make it this year. I'm going to predict October. I predicted October for Metroid Dread, and I'll predict October for Pikmin 4 as well. Not quite a huge title. I don't think it's going to be their marquee holiday game, but I think it's one that certainly appeals to a large enough niche that will really, drive people out to buy it. I think they'll push up the marketing around the summer. I think it will be really cool. I know some people are a bit concerned with how much talk there is about the camera. People are like, after Star Fox Zero with Miyamoto involved, they're like, oh no, please don't worry too much about the controls, about the camera. But you know what? I really liked Pikmin 3. I really liked, how you had 3 captains that really allowed you to. It was great for speed running, which is really cool because you were able to optimize your routes. It was just really a lot of fun. Yeah. Pikmin's always been energetic, but it's also been just the right amount of stress. Unless we're talking about the final area in Pikmin 3, we don't talk about that.
Yeah, no, we don't talk about that.
We don't talk about that. But yeah, I would agree. I think that what we know so far about 2023 actually does look quite good. I would like to see more of that sort of unexpected game announcements like we've seen with Bayonetta Origins, but of course we're only a few days into the year. But I would be hard pressed if there's a bigger release than Tears of the Kingdom. Yeah. I think they're gonna start. I mean, they put that date out relatively early, or earlier than they did for Breath of the Wild, because they really want to drum up hype for that. And I'll say it right now, I think the game hits that date. I think the game hits May 12th. And it's gonna be fabulous. Yeah. I guess I'll throw in another prediction here. I think we'll see a dedicated direct for Tears of the Kingdom sometime between February and April of this year. I think if the pattern follows where we have a February direct, I think there's a good chance we get one dedicated to Zelda very shortly thereafter. Because I think there's quite a bit we still don't know about that game, and I think Nintendo knows that. They've kind of drip fed us information similar to a lot of previous releases. Of course, Splatoon 3 had a direct after a lot of concern about that game. To one of the best-selling games in Nintendo's lineup, to what many consider to be one of the greatest games of all time, I think they want to drum it up and really go into what makes the game unique.
No, I definitely can see that happening for sure. An exclusive Zelda Direct, and sort of playing off that too, I guess I'll share one of my predictions as well for the new year. And one of them is going to be that I think that there will be the DLC pack that will be released for Tears of the Kingdom, sort of similar to Breath of the Wild. I think it'll come out shortly after the launch of the game, maybe 2-3 months after the game comes out. And I'm thinking they're probably going to release it in packs, similar to Breath of the Wild, like I said. And I think that they're going to do some kind of DLC for sure with Tears of the Kingdom. What format it'll take, we don't know, if it'll be like the Master Quest or something like that. But yeah, I think definitely this year in general, we're going to see a lot of DLC and digital add-ons from Nintendo.
I think that's a good prediction, and I would agree with that, but I don't know if I'd agree with the 2 to 3 months out. I know that they, with Breath of the Wild, they had the Master Trials, I believe those were called. Of course, the Champions Ballad came out. I believe that coincided with the Game Awards 2017. I think it's unquestionable the game gets some form of DLC. I think they're going to want to keep it as an evergreen, how Nintendo feels about that. And it's gonna be profitable off the bat. There's not a doubt in my mind this game is gonna sell gangbusters. What form the DLC will take, well, you'll have to play the game. But I'm certain they have some ideas, and I'm not concerned at all about the game not feeling complete at launch. But yeah, I would agree. I think we'll see DLC. I think we see it announced this year. I don't know if it will come out, but we'll have to wait and see. But I think that's a good prediction. Now, I'm gonna put my hat into the ring. We'll go back into some of the other games we alluded to later in the discussion. But I'm going to throw my hat in the ring for another pretty big prediction. So over the course of these last several years, it feels like we've gotten a fairly big multiplayer game every single year in the Switch's lifestyle, with a few exceptions. 2017, we got Splatoon 2. 2018, Smash. 2019, Mario Maker 2. 2020 was kind of an off year, obviously with the pandemic. But we did get Animal Crossing, if you want to consider that. 2021, you got Mario Golf Super Rush. And 2022, you got Splatoon 3. Those titles, some of them, differ in terms of sales and quality. But I think the trend continues in 2023. It's time. We're going to get a sequel to ARMS. ARMS 2 is going to be announced.
Nice.
It's going to be announced in the first Direct in February, where we're going to see the original game, by the time all of its post-launch content was complete, had 15 fighters. We're going to see double that in ARMS 2. We're also going to see a full-fledged single-player mode. What form this exactly takes, I'm not entirely sure. I don't think it goes like open world or anything like that.
Yeah.
Maybe a level-based structure would be really neat. I think they could explore that. We're going to see new modes, new online interactivity. It's going to be great. It's going to launch sometime in the summer. But I'm going to put my hat in the ring.
Nice.
ARMS 2
There
is
you
going to
go.
come out this year.
Wow. Yeah, that's a really cool prediction. I don't own ARMS, but I did play the global test punches that they did and all that. And I had a lot of fun though, playing online with random people and just messing around with it. And it's definitely like a really unique experience for the Switch. So I think it would be cool to see a sequel to that. And I think it could happen. Who knows?
I was drawn to the game by the test punches. And I will say, I think one of the problems with ARMS is as I played more of it, I want to say 40 hours or so into that game. Not too much time, but the motion controls were what really sold that game.
Yeah.
But to actually have an advantage, you needed to play without them. Because guarding with the Joy-Con was just not reliable.
Yeah.
Sometimes punches were weird, but that's what made the game fun. So if they could find a way to change those motion controls to be more accurate, to be more balanced, to a traditional control scheme, I think then they're on the money. And ARMS was never, I think it sold roughly 2 million copies. Yeah. But for a new IP, it's pretty good. So I think they could certainly build off that success. I think they've had enough sort of time between Splatoon 3 if ARMS comes out in the summer. You gotta realize those ARMS 1 and Splatoon 2 were literally a month and a half apart.
Yeah.
Not even that, they were a month apart. So I think giving it sort of that time to shine, if they really give it that marketing, I don't think it necessarily interferes with something like Tears of the Kingdom. I think it could end up performing quite well for itself.
Yeah, definitely. Those are definitely like games for two different audiences, I would say. I guess another prediction, I'll throw it out there. I think this year we're gonna see some kind of new Mario game. Whether it's 2D, 3D, a sports game, anything like that, I think that we're going to see something new from Mario. And Mario Odyssey, in terms of the 3D Mario games, that came out in 2017, if I remember correctly.
October 2017, yeah.
Yeah, and so, that was the last brand new, like, fully 3D Mario game. There was obviously the 3D World in Bowser's Fury, but that was sort of like an enhanced port. And so yeah, like it's been, quite a while since there was a mainline 3D Mario game that's totally brand new. So I'm thinking it's time maybe that they'll go back and release something Mario, and also to coincide like with the movie, the hype from that. I think it would kind of be silly not to release any kind of Mario game this year with all the buzz around the Mario movie and everything like that. And like I said, it doesn't necessarily need to be a 3D game. It could even be like a 2D game, or maybe a sports game, maybe another baseball game. I know they haven't done baseball in a while for Mario, so something Mario related though is what I am predicting.
So I certainly agree with you that they're going to want to capitalize on the movie. But I want to sort of hone you further. So are we going to see a 3D Mario game this year?
I want to say yes, but then another one of my predictions later on, like, kind of contradicts this, sort of.
Just go with it. Just say the prediction. Just say the prediction. Just do it.
One of my other predictions was that we're going to see, like, the Switch's successor, Switch 2, whatever you want to call it.
One.
I think we're going to see that announced, like, later on this year. Maybe sometime in October, November. And it's not going to come out this year for sure. It's definitely will come out next year. But I'm thinking this is going to be the last full year of the Switch. And the reason why I'm hesitant about the 3D Mario game is because I'm thinking if they do release the next Switch game, I don't think that they would want to release like the, literally the highest profile
Correct.
Nintendo IP on their, last gen console at that point. They'd probably want to put it onto the Switch too.
Yeah, so I think you're pretty much right on the money. I don't think we're gonna see another 3D Mario game this year because of the reasons you laid out. I think that Nintendo is gonna start prioritizing development for the Switch's successor, and that would be a great game to put in its launch window. We saw that with the Odyssey. Of course, we saw that with Breath of the Wild. 2017 was one of the greatest years of gaming for Nintendo. We saw so much success over there. But yeah, and I will say I don't know if you'd exactly agree. I think the only thing we'll see regarding the Switch's successor this year is a name. I think we'll get a name, and that's it. But I do think it will launch next year. I agree with you. I think this is the last full year of the Switch. I think they're gonna ride it as long as they can. I think we are already starting to see sales decline. We're already starting to see third parties sort of pivot away. Of course, we're still seeing a lot of impressive tech. But, as the years go by and the PS5 and Series X gradually get more and more exclusives, as development gradually gears more towards them, it's going to become harder to make games for the Switch that aren't cloud versions. And we've all seen the poor reception to that. So I would agree. I think we'll see the next Switch. I think we'll see it in some form this year, just in my opinion, just in the form of a minor Twitter announcement. And I'll just say it first and foremost, maybe this is a poor prediction. I think it's just going to be the Switch 2. I know Nintendo could come up with some sort of terrible name like the new Nintendo Switch or the Switch U. Can you imagine? But I think they're gonna keep it smart. I think they're gonna just call it the Switch 2. I think it actually will be backwards compatible with the originals library. I think they'll fix the drift issue with the Joy-Con. I think they will actually have different Joy-Con with it. And I think they'll improve the screen to be a better resolution, but the dock in particular, I think, is going to be 4K compatible. That's sort of going into 2024 territory, but that's what I think is going to happen with the next system. And I certainly think the next 3D Mario is a game that could launch alongside it. And I don't think it's Odyssey 2. I gotta be brutally honest with you. I don't think the next 3D Mario is Odyssey 2. But I think it's certainly in development. Odyssey 1 sold too well. Those games reviewed too well. So yeah.
Yeah, no, I agree with a lot of the points that you also just made there. I do think that it'll definitely be backwards compatible. I think if they didn't make it backwards compatible, that would kind of be just crazy with how big the install base is for the Switch. And personally, like, I would like to see the Switch 2 kind of be at the same like power level as maybe something like the Xbox One X or like PS4 Pro, because I mean, like you said, it's definitely now more than ever, the Switch is definitely lagging behind in power compared to the PS5, Series X, and it's trickier for third parties to develop games that coincide with those other consoles. So for sure, I agree with that. Kind of bring it back into 2023 territory now. Another prediction that I'll share is that I think that there's going to be a new Pokemon DLC that's going to come out for Scarlet and Violet, because just like with Sword and Shield, there was a DLC that came out after a few months, I believe, after the game came out. And if I remember, I mean, I didn't personally play the DLC for Sword and Shield, but from what I saw, it was reviewed pretty well online, and I saw that people enjoyed it a lot more than
the Isle of Armor and the Crown Tundra.
People enjoyed it more than the base game in some circumstances. So I think that Pokemon, there will definitely be a DLC for Scarlet and Violet. Hopefully it'll really kind of fix up some of the performance issues and all the troubles that the game has been having, add some extra polish to the game, you know, a new kind of sort of side campaign as well, similar to the Isle of Armor and all that. And yeah, I think that'll probably come out this year, maybe sometime um in the spring, like late spring, early summer maybe.
No, that's a good prediction. I agree. I think we'll see Pokemon DLC for Scarlet and Violet throughout the year. I also think throughout the year they'll roll out patches to improve the performance. Hopefully by the end, it'll be in a much more stable state. But yeah, I think that's what's going to happen. I don't think it'll be in two parts. I think they're just going to have one massive DLC, for like $40 or something, that releases in or near November. But yeah, certainly they'll want to capitalize on that game's gigantic success. I think it's Nintendo's fastest launch, I believe. In 3 days, I think, ever. It sold 10 million, which is unbelievable. That game's been unbelievably successful. So yeah, I would agree with that prediction. And I'm also going to throw out another DLC prediction in here. I think we actually see downloadable content for Kirby and the Forgotten Land. I think we get a full, well, not full, but a DLC story mode for the game that includes maybe 1 or 2 worlds, sort of a different background to the lands we explore in Kirby and the Forgotten Land. This actually isn't entirely unprecedented. Remember, in the 3DS games, they put out tiny eShop releases. I remember Deity's Drum Dash Deluxe. We had the Kirby 3D game. That was really interesting. I think we see Kirby DLC actually come out sometime this year for like 20 or 30 bucks, something like that, and it'll be a lot of fun. I'll say it coincides with the 1-year anniversary. I'll say it comes out in March.
Nice. Yeah, that's a good poll. I totally that slipped my mind, like anything Kirby related for this year. So that's a good one. I didn't get around to playing Kirby last year, so this year I have to jump on the train and play it for sure.
Obviously, we already know that Xenoblade Chronicles 3, a little known game, is getting story DLC. We've already had 2 waves, I believe, that have come out, still wave 3 and 4, but I think that the 4th wave they've already indicated will be a large-scale story DLC, and I think we see that sometime in the summer. I'm gonna say I think it comes out around June to August, somewhere in that range. I'm actually gonna say it's gonna be larger in scale than Torna the Golden Country. I know they've said they may make it bigger. I think they're just gonna do it. Now that's not necessarily a good thing, but Monolith, I'm sure will find a way to make it high quality. Now there are a lot of different ways this DLC can go. Play the game to sort of have an idea. I'm not gonna spoil anything. But certainly a lot of different avenues that they can explore. But I can potentially see some of them being a bit controversial. But yeah, I'm really excited. I have full faith in Monolith. I think that they'll find a lot of ways to make it work. I really enjoyed Xenoblade Chronicles 3. Felt it delivered really on all of its major promises in a wonderful, wonderful story, wonderful cast of characters. Some of the best I've seen actually in a story. So yeah, we shall see. Steven, do you agree? Do you think we'll see it sometime?
That was my exact prediction, that the Wave 4 for the Xenoblade 3 DLC will release in sometime over the summer. I said July/August, so pretty much my exact prediction right there.
Well, not bad. I'm looking forward to that. I think we see that sometime in February. I think that's when it gets officially revealed. Torna was officially revealed, I think, in E3 of 2018. That's when that game had its first trailer. And then they came out with a box version, and that's gonna go like hotcakes, because for whatever reason these things sell fairly well, and they don't produce enough of them. Talk to the Xenoblade 3 Special Edition people. I know you weren't able to get your hand on it.
No, I was not able to. Still sad about it, but
hey, maybe it'll show up on eBay for $800 in a few days.
Exactly.
But anyhow, I want to go back to what you were previously saying about Mario and how we'll see another Mario game this year. I think it's almost a given at this point, but I'm actually going to go a bit riskier here. I think we'll see another Mario and Luigi game. I know that Alpha
That's
Dream disbanded back a few years ago, but Nintendo still has the right to the IP. The only things I can really predict here, I don't think Bowser will be the main antagonist, but I think it's revealed this year. It comes out next year. That's what I'm gonna say. I think it comes out next year, but we finally see a new Mario and Luigi game, which for me would be it would be incredibly exciting. I don't think Mario and Luigi necessarily compares to like the original Paper Marios. The original Paper Marios are still some of my favorite RPGs out there, but Mario and Luigi has been certainly more consistent, and I really enjoyed those games. I was actually one of the few people, it feels like, that really enjoyed Paper Jam. I thought that game was very well paced. I thought it was incredibly fun. Just to me, a solid RPG. And I think that if they can build off of that, maintain the fun combat, maintain the incredible music. I mean, Yoko Shimomura just knocks it out of the park consistently, just with any of her work, and Mario and Luigi is no exception. I would be, for one, super duper excited for that.
Yeah, that's a really awesome prediction. I like that a lot, and I totally agree with what you were saying about Mario and Luigi as a series. Like it's a series that I've always enjoyed. I love Bowser's Inside Story and Dream Team and all that. And I feel like, back when they the last Mario and Luigi games were released by Alpha Dream, I feel like they were kind of dealt like an unfair hand in that situation. The Switch just had came out, and it was rapidly overtaking, just the whole gaming scene at that point, and 3DS was kind of starting to be phased out, it seemed like. So it was kind of odd that they definitely released, remasters of DS games that could be played on the 3DS anyways, if you still had copies. So yeah, it would be cool if they got some of the original like team members from Alpha Dream and did a Mario and Luigi game, or even if they didn't get any of the original Alpha Dream members and they just sort of did it with an internal team, a brand new team or something. It would be kind of cool to see them revisit the whole series.
It certainly is sad the way that studio shut down, and it feels like with the remasters of Superstar Saga and Bowser's Inside Story, they were almost forced that way, because those games, as you said, were coming out as the Switch was growing in success, and where really the 3DS sales were just down across the board.
No.
But I think the Mario and Luigi series has a lot of untapped potential, and I think particularly seeing it on a home console. I mean, we've never seen that series on anything but a handheld. Just imagine how beautiful those things would look with their incredible. It's not quite pixel art, but you know what I'm talking about. Just their art style and their art direction. And if I mention the music, oh my goodness, get a full orchestra in there on incredible stereo speakers. Yeah. And now we're talking. Get the popcorn ready. But yeah, I think I would personally love to see it. I certainly think it's one of the riskier predictions here, but it would warm my heart to see another Mario and Luigi game, and that would be a day one purchase for me.
Nice.
And the dialogue's hysterical, by the way. The dialogue is hysterical. Oh yeah. I'd probably be laughing. I'd be laughing so much.
Yeah. Oh yeah, for sure. So, another prediction that I'll go ahead and make is, I'm thinking that we're gonna see GBA launch on the Switch Online as another like console on there on the app, and this might also include maybe some Game Boy or Game Boy Color games, but I'm thinking GBA is probably gonna be the one that gets launched. And it'll be the first handheld on the Switch Online app. And I'm thinking that it could potentially release with games like Golden Sun, or maybe the Wario Land games, or like the Mario Advance games that they did, Mario Kart Super Circuit, things like that. I'm thinking it would be kind of cool to see that finally come out on the Switch Online. I think I remember last year there was maybe some leaks potentially that showed some stuff about the GBA Online on the Switch Online app, so I'm thinking that could happen this year.
Do you think it would come on the expansion pack? I'm guessing so.
I'm thinking it would probably be on the expansion pack. So
I gotta be honest with you, it feels like with Nintendo, if you want something, they're not gonna give it to you. And I'm gonna predict actually we won't see GBA Game Boy Color, Game Boy games this year on the Switch Online service. As much as I would love to see it, I just don't think Nintendo. It's not that they don't want to do it, but I just don't think we'll see it. Maybe it'll take longer. Maybe they have internal tools going on where they want to continue to refine it. I don't think we'll see it, but certainly if we were to see it, I would love to see a lot of the games you mentioned. I mean, Golden Sun already, I think, would sell enough people to the platform, would further increase, expansion pack ownership.
Yeah.
There's of course, the Mario and Luigi games, which still graphically hold up quite well. And the GBA really does have such an underappreciated library. I mean, Minish Cap, so many great, fantastic games. In the Wario Land franchise you previously alluded to, we haven't seen another installment in that in a while.
Yeah.
I would love to see it. And if they do, maybe they make that announcement in the summer, but I just don't see it happening, Steven.
Yeah.
But you may be right. Now,
Yeah.
I guess I'll ask, do you think when it comes to the expansion pack and Switch Online in general, do you think that we'll see anything other than more platforms added to Switch Online? Do you think we'll see like more DLC? Do you think there'll be like another big incentive, something like that?
I think at this point, it seems like now, I think they're gonna go mainly for just like older games and systems, maybe sometime. I mean, they have the Genesis on there. Maybe somehow, some way, they'll get like other Sega consoles on there or something like that. But I think for now, it seems like they're gonna stick with just like the older games and maybe just not necessarily add new systems as well, but maybe just keep expanding the libraries of the systems that are already on there. They're slowly adding games more and more every few months to it, but yeah, I think that they're gonna like stay the course with that. I'm thinking. I don't think that they're really gonna plan to launch like any massive DLC on it, like Animal Crossing, but yeah, that's what I'm thinking.
It's a great perspective, but again, I think one of the reasons I'm less optimistic about Game Boy coming to Switch is with the rollout of the Nintendo 64 games. It feels like they're so few and far between. I mean, we saw that graphic of games for Nintendo 64 service coming or confirmed for this year, and it's like 5 or 6.
Yeah,
and we don't have a terrible amount of games already on there. And Nintendo 64 is such a great library that I'd love to see expanded on online. Get the pun, right? The expansion pack expanded.
Yeah.
I'll see myself out. But yeah, I think we could see. I think we may see something like the Xenoblade DLC maybe added to the expansion pack. I think we could see that. But the problem with that is I don't think it would necessarily entice too many people to it. But Switch Online, I think they have a lot of room to grow. For me, it really just comes down to the online itself on the Switch, which just hasn't gotten much better over the last few years. I mean, you go on Smash Online and you got more than 3 players. I mean, you might as well just be watching, one of those picture book slideshows that goes like
right. It's like
minute.
a PowerPoint presentation.
It's like a PowerPoint presentation, which is terrible when you consider there are likely remedies to that Nintendo just doesn't want to address. That would be one of my hopes for the year, is that Switch Online gets better and actually works. But that may be too much to ask. But sort of going off of our discussion of that, I want to talk more about some games I don't think we'll see this year. Now, I'm just gonna put my hat in the ring. I don't think we're gonna see Wind Waker or Twilight Princess HD this year. I think it's been long rumored. I think it's again one of those examples of a game you want. Nintendo's just not gonna give it to you. Even though it would sell gangbusters, Nintendo's not going to give it to you. Now, I will say, I guess regarding that, Skyward Sword HD recently came out, and that game didn't sell nearly as much as I think a lot of people would have hoped it would. I think that may just be, a product of the time frame it launched, the way that game was marketed, the way it looked. But maybe that, sent a signal to Nintendo, okay, maybe these don't sell too terribly much, even though I think Wind Waker and Twilight Princess HD would immediately go, off the shelves day one. I also think there's a lot of rumors we see about Metroid Prime getting a remake or remaster as well as a trilogy. Neither of those are going to happen. I don't think either of those are going to happen. maybe in 2024, but currently, again, I think it's just one of those examples of something that you want, and Nintendo is just not going to deliver. As much as I think it would be such a smart business strategy to put Prime Trilogy HD on there, I just don't think we'll see it. And I know there are a lot of rumors that's already done, but I know it's a slightly different scenario. I think the development timeline was significantly expanded because of myriad factors. But Bayonetta, we saw Bayonetta 1 and 2 release 4.5 years before Bayonetta 3 came out. 4.5 years. So I don't know. Maybe Nintendo wants to release this closer to when Prime 4 eventually comes out. They could do that, but I don't think we'll see it this year. I do not think we'll see any of those this year. Nintendo is just gonna kind of disappoint in that regard. As much as I would love to see it. I mean, those games look, to this date, they still look incredible. The atmospheres are still incredible. They'd be incredibly successful, I'm confident, especially after Dread did so well.
Oh yeah, I agree with that as well, with all those exclusions you just listed. I think in terms of Zelda, they're definitely, I think, just gonna go full in with Tears of the Kingdom right now, and I don't think that this year they would probably release like another Zelda game, albeit, an older one, but still, I think that they would probably want to just go full in with the new game. And same with the Prime trilogy. I mean, every single direct, for the past like 5 years, there's always been, everyone's predicting like Metroid Prime Trilogy HD is gonna get announced and it's gonna come out soon, and it just never happens. Like I don't think that it's gonna randomly happen this year now all of a sudden. So
no, well, it's coming out tomorrow, right?
Yeah, tomorrow definitely.
But no, those rumors have been circulating for so long, and there's a rumor in this list I want to touch on later that actually I do kind of believe. But that's just one of them. It's just been circling for so long. Nothing's really come of it. I know so many people have indicated it's real, but I just don't buy it. What can I say? Maybe Nintendo even shelved it somewhere down the line. But it's just not, I just don't necessarily think it's going to happen as much as I'd like to see it. But I do want to ask you, we're talking about Metroid here, Steven. Do you have any predictions for Metroid Prime 4, the game we have not heard anything about since January of 2019?
Okay, so what I would predict about Metroid Prime 4 is that it will not come out this year. I think that, if anything, it's going to maybe get maybe around like the summertime, whenever they do like their summer sort of direct, or maybe around like E3, that sort of time. I think that they'll show like a trailer, and it'll be kind of like a bigger trailer, maybe, like 2 to 4 minutes long, and we'll finally see some gameplay of the game, all that. But I do think that it will probably come out next year, if it does come out, and I think that it'll maybe even, it could be like a dual release with the Switch and Switch 2 or something like that, or it'll be like a launch title on the Switch 2, something like that, is what I'm thinking about Metroid Prime 4.
Well, you basically stole my prediction, because I agree with you. I think we'll see a very meaty trailer for that game sometime this year. I think we'll see a logo, I think we'll see cinematics, I think we'll see gameplay somewhere around E3. In fact, I'll say it comes at E3, where I think Nintendo will have their direct. And I think that launches next holiday. I think Prime 4 is going to coincide with the launch of the Nintendo Switch successor. My hope is that's named the Switch 2, but I think it comes out next holiday. It comes out on both platforms. It looks better on the hypothetical Switch 2. It plays a bit better. Maybe it runs at 60 FPS instead of 30. But that's my prediction with that game, is I think it's probably the final like big release for the Switch, rides it off into the sunset. I think it'll be great. I think Retro's taken quite a bit of time to polish it up. I think we do finally see it. But yeah, I don't think it's launching this year. I think with AAA development budgets like that, they've just grown in scope and budget size and the team you need. And you gotta keep in mind, a lot of developers are still feeling the effects of the pandemic, and that game was undoubtedly pushed back as a result of it. And Retro is still hiring, or at least they were hiring until relatively recently for that game. So you gotta imagine it's a little bit of a ways off. It's not impossible it comes out this year. That would have given them effectively 5 years to develop it, which could be enough time. But I think they're gonna really try and do that game right. They're gonna try and really polish it to be the best it can be, because a lot I think is riding on Prime 4. I mean, Nintendo rarely, or it might be unprecedented, that they've outright canceled a project and restarted it and told us about it. And they were very open about Prime 4 with that. So I think a lot of stake is at Retro to do this game well. They haven't released a game in almost 10 years since Tropical Freeze. But so I do think it will end up coming out quite well, but I don't think we see it this year. So I would agree with you there.
Yeah, no, for sure. And so another prediction I'll go ahead and throw out is, I think this year, or at least, this year, I think that there'll be some kind of new Yoshi game. This is kind of like a random one that I just totally was like, I'm gonna throw it in there. We'll see what happens. But I do think that there's gonna be a
bad
new,
prediction.
Some kind of new Yoshi game, and the reason I say it is it goes back to the Mario movie. I think that they're really gonna, ride off the hype of the Mario movie this year, and Yoshi, I think maybe there'll be an announcement for a new game or something like that. It'll probably be in the similar style of all the other Yoshi games, where it's, just a 2D platformer. Yoshi throws eggs, things like that. Maybe they'll stick with the arts and crafts kind of art style and do another rendition of that, like how they did with Woolly World and then Crafted World. But I do think that maybe there will be some kind of new Yoshi announcement, something. And another thing I forgot to mention is just that in general, it's been, I think now 3 years since Crafted World came out. I believe it came out in 2019.
2019,
so, yeah, I mean, I feel like it could happen, maybe.
No, that's a good prediction. We don't know what Good Feel is up to, and I think a Yoshi game is right up their alley. I for one would even settle for a port of Woolly World. I think that game is wholly underappreciated. Really fantastic level design, fantastic art style. I for one preferred it vastly over Crafted World. But they could absolutely make a sequel to either one of those two, or do something completely different with Yoshi. I think Yoshi is so fun and so underappreciated as a franchise. I would love to see it. I think they could easily slot that in sometime in the fall, just like a cozy sort of platformer. We can never have enough 2D platformers because they're always, especially with Nintendo. I mean, they're the kings of that genre. And Yoshi, I think, is quite one that deserves to be appreciated a lot more than it is. So yeah, I think that's a very good prediction on your end. Now I will go off of that and sort of coincide with the Mario movie a bit more. I'm gonna give 2 Mario related predictions. Ooh. The first one, it's finally gonna happen. Super Mario Galaxy 2 is finally gonna come to the Nintendo Switch, and it's gonna come in the first half of 2022. And the best part, it'll be $60, and I'll pay for it. So it won't include any new content. It's just gonna be a straight port. It should have been with 3D All Stars. But it will finally come out. And then the second prediction, this is a bit less Mario related, but it's a Mario character who has a new design in the Mario movie. I want to talk a bit about Donkey Kong. Now, there's not gonna be a new 3D Mario this year, but for the first time in over 2 decades, we are finally getting another 3D Donkey Kong. It's not going to be like Donkey Kong 64. It's not going to be a complete collectathon. There's not going to be 20 characters with 500 bananas to collect each per world. But it's going to be good. I think it gets announced in the February Direct and released sometime in the fall. I'm going to say September. And it ditches the country moniker. It's not going to have the country title in its name, but it's going to be 3D. There's a lot of rumors that there's a 3D Donkey Kong game being developed by the team that developed Odyssey. I believe that's Nintendo EPD. I actually don't think that's true. I think they're hard at work on the next 3D Mario. So who this is in development by, who knows? Maybe this is good feel, but I think we'll actually see a new Donkey Kong game this year, and I think it will be 3D for the first time since Donkey Kong 64.
Wow. Yeah, that's an awesome prediction. I definitely agree that I think that they would probably drop like the country moniker. Maybe they would, because I'm thinking they would probably, almost like Donkey Kong 64, where country was like the 2D sort of series, and then 64 was like, the first full 3D game. So maybe it'll be some kind of different subtitle moniker or something like that. But yeah, it would be really cool to see like a fully 3D Donkey Kong game, and just a new Donkey Kong game in general. Because it's a great series. They've always all been just really solid, fun platformers, and to see what they would do in 3D would be kind of interesting. I wonder how it would go. If it would maybe be kind of along the lines of the new Kirby game that came out, sort of like a 3D platformer like that. But yeah,
Level-based.
It would be really cool to see that for sure.
Yeah, it would be interesting to see whether it takes a more level-based structure or more sandbox structure like Odyssey. I, for one, would be completely fine with either or. I think they're both fantastic. I think it would be I think feel more refreshed to see a more sandbox-style structure. I think in a few ways that it's just more satisfying that way. They're to me more memorable experiences. But I would just be happy with the new 3D Donkey Kong game, because as you said, that series, at least the 2D ones, are just so fantastic. Retro really perfected the 2D Donkey Kong style game with the country series. I mean, before this discussion, I was listening to Tropical Freeze music. Man, nice. David Wise did a fantastic job.
Yeah.
So it would be great to see him return in particular. But I really hope this comes true. I think it is time for a new Donkey Kong game in some way, shape, or form, and I really do hope it's a 3D one.
Yeah, that's awesome. So I'll throw out another prediction now, and this is kind of, it's definitely a smaller scale prediction, not as big as like a whole entire brand new game, but I think maybe this year we'll finally see Mario RPG added to the Switch Online, the SNES. I think that's going to be one of the games that they're going to actually add finally, because it seems, definitely in recent years, at least it seems like the relationship between Square and Nintendo has been getting stronger and stronger. Square releases so many games on the Switch now, it's crazy. And I feel like it's not out of the question now that there could be some kind of deal made, some kind of agreement where we'll see maybe some of the old Square games, in particular Mario RPG, like I said, onto the Switch Online. And again, I don't want to just keep falling back on this reason, but again, the Mario movie, like, I feel like this year they probably will go kind of like heavy on the Mario stuff because of the Mario movie and all that. So it would be cool to see it, but who knows?
Yeah, I would love to see Mario RPG. I personally have actually not finished that game. I got roughly halfway through it and then just stopped, and I need to get back to it. I still have it on my Wii U, but certainly if they put that on Switch, it'd be a reason for me to finally pick it back up again and experience that game in all its glory, because from what I played, just a fantastic combat system, so many great characters. They just go off the wall with some of the writing in that game.
Yeah.
And that soundtrack too is underappreciated. I think it's so well done. I think his pacing from what I played was also quite good. But I'd love to see Mario RPG finally added. Their relationship with Square Enix, I think, has grown over the past few years. I think Nintendo could finally work out some sort of agreement with them, and that's an easy announcement to put in a direct somewhere. Hey, Mario RPG, it's available now. Go download it. Go play it. Similar to what they did with Earthbound. And
I was just going to say that.
So, I think that's a solid prediction. Whether it'll happen, is anyone's sort of guess. But I would love to see it, and I think a lot of people would be happy to see that, because it's one of those games that's been fervently demanded for a
Yeah.
while now, and having
Oh, yeah.
it in a handheld factor, being able to take it on the go would be just phenomenal. It'd be so
Yeah.
good.
Oh, yeah.
But I'll throw my hand in. I'll do two predictions here. This one's a bit harder to predict because the situation is because the situation's ongoing. But I think Advance Wars 1+2 Reboot Camp does launch this year. I think it launches in April. Frankly, I think with Nintendo, there's no real good time to launch this game. It was originally slated for December of 21 and then delayed to April 22. And of course, because of the war in Ukraine, it was delayed indefinitely. And by all accounts, This game is finished. This game is ready to be released. But I think it's very tough. But I do think we see the game come out this year. And I'm going to predict it comes out in April. And I, for one, am really looking forward to this game. I've never played an Advance Wars game. I was super excited when they finally announced it back at E3 2021. And I've heard just great things about this franchise. And I, for one, am incredibly excited to dive in whenever's the best time that Nintendo feels to release it. And I think this is a scenario in which they'll just shadow drop it. You know, this will be available in a week, or this is available today.
Yeah, no, that's a good prediction. I think I would agree with that too. That release date, or release window, and yeah, I've never played an Advance Wars game either, and I always hear that it's kind of like a cult classic strategy sort of game. So I'm definitely excited to pick it up and play it when it does finally come out.
No, it certainly is a game to look forward to, and I'll put in another prediction here. We talked about DLC earlier, and another game that's getting large-scale DLC is Splatoon 3. And I think we do see that this year. I'm going to say we see it in September, sometime in the fall, roughly a year after Splatoon 3 will have launched. It's going to be a single-player story like Octo Expansion. I think it'll star Pearl and Marina from Splatoon 2. There was like a silhouette of them in the direct when this large-scale expansion was finally announced. I think it will be a bit bigger than Octo Expansion. That was roughly, I think, 6 to 8 hours. I think this will be somewhere around 10. But I think this will be something that a lot of Splatoon fans are looking forward to. They've done a good job overall. I think they did a great job with the Octo Expansion. They've done a good job, I think, with the single player across that franchise. And I think this will be, it won't be an exception to that. I think it'll be something that a lot of fans are looking forward to. I'm gonna put that in for some time in the fall. What do you think? What do you think about this DLC? Do you think it's single player only? Do you think it includes a multiplayer element? What do you think? And do you think it comes out this year?
I think it could be a mix of both. Like, in terms of the multiplayer aspect, maybe they'll add in some new weapons, sort of like in Splatoon 1, if I remember correctly. They added they didn't have outright like a whole DLC expansion pack like this, but I know that they released like DLC waves that had like, weapons with different brands and things like that. So they had different sub items and specials. So maybe they'll do something like that where they'll add in different weapons that already exist but under different in-game brands and things like that, just to mix up the gameplay a little bit in multiplayer, add in some more options. And but yeah, I think the single player, like you said, it's probably going to be a big the main component of the DLC, I would say. And it's probably going to be pretty big. I think I would agree with that too.
I'm looking forward to this when it eventually launches. I, for one, have not purchased Splatoon 3 yet. Yeah. But this could incentivize me to get it, particularly if it's well acclaimed, if it seems like, a good value. But I'll throw in my next prediction here, and Masahiro Sakurai, of course, the director of Super Smash Bros., recently started his own YouTube channel, and that channel goes into the process of creating games. Seriously, give it a go if you haven't already. There's a lot of great insight there. And in one video, he brought out a question. He's like, Kid Icarus Uprising, wouldn't that be great if someone was porting that game?
Oh.
I think someone is porting that game.
Oh.
I think we do see a Kid Icarus Uprising remaster revealed this year, but that's not it. We're getting a sequel to Kid Icarus Uprising that's going to be announced this year alongside the remaster. the sequel's not launching. I don't think not until next year at least. But I think both of those games are going to be announced, and I for one am going to be incredibly happy. I've been rooting for Kid Icarus Uprising to come back in some shape or form for years now. Such a wonderful game, and I would love to see it on Switch. I think it finally is going to happen. The original was certainly limited by its control scheme. Didn't sell incredibly well, but I think it would find a new platform on Switch, particularly if they brought back a multiplayer element, keep the franchise going for a while. I think we do finally see Kid Icarus Uprising and a sequel announced this year.
Wow, yeah, that's an awesome prediction. I also loved Kid Icarus Uprising. I played that game so much back in the day, and like you said, like it definitely it's limited by the controls, and now the Switch has 2 sticks, so it could definitely work better, I feel like, on the Switch with having both sticks. And yeah, and I wanted to say, I just thought of when you brought up the multiplayer element, it would be kind of cool if they did something like, I don't know, they added some kind of multiplayer, like online, like deathmatch sort of thing, or like a battle mode or something where it's like you could battle against like other players.
Well, there was a multiplayer mode. There was a multiplayer mode in Kid Icarus Uprising.
Oh yeah, that's right. Oh, I totally forgot about that. Yeah, because I never had any friends to play with.
Yeah, I don't think a lot of people managed to play it.
Yeah,
but
yeah,
I think
I was like the only person I knew that had that game. So,
you must not have known me at the time.
Yeah, exactly. So, yeah, I mean that would be awesome though if they added, or if they just remastered that game, brought it to the whole Switch audience. That would be awesome to get some exposure for that. And then even a sequel too. That's a pretty big prediction right there too. That would probably, like you said, I think that would probably launch like, some later down the road, probably be on the Switch 2, something like that. So yeah, that would be awesome though, to just see a revival of that franchise for sure.
Yeah, I think the sequel would launch on the Switch and maybe launch alongside the Switch 2 as well, or at least be backwards compatible. At what form that sequel takes, I'm not entirely sure. I think it would maintain sort of the chapter-based structure. I will say I don't think Sakurai would be the director. I think he would be involved in some way, maybe as like an executive producer. But I think he's working on something else at the moment, or at least isn't particularly interested in working on a Kid Icarus Uprising sequel. Yeah. But I think it is going to happen. I think there's a lot of untapped potential with that franchise, particularly when it comes to the gameplay where you're on the ground. I think that's the area of the game that needs the biggest improvement, particularly when the Star Fox style on rail sections are so good. But those sections, I think the game in and of itself, even as much controversy as it gets because of its controls, I think it really is so fantastic, and I think we'll finally see a sequel announced, and I'll be incredibly happy. I really just want a remaster, but I think we're gonna get very lucky here, like we did in December of 2017 with Bayonetta. I think we finally get a new sequel announced.
Nice. Yeah, any kind of new Kid Icarus would be awesome for sure.
No, it would. I've always longed for like Hades and Smash just to get his voice actor in there, but I don't think that's gonna happen. But I think certainly seeing him return would be fantastic.
Oh yeah, that would be cool. So another prediction I'll go ahead and make right now is that I think I'm gonna bring it back to the beginning of the show here. Pikmin 4. I'm thinking it will release this year, and it will release probably sometime later on in the year, like around Q3, Q4. I'm thinking probably like a fall title is what I would think. It would release around that time, maybe October, maybe late September, and yeah, I'm just, that's my prediction. I think it's gonna come out this year and that time period.
Well, yeah, I remember I alluded to this earlier in the discussion. I agree. I think it comes out sometime in the fall. I'm going to say October. I think it's the best time to release it. I know that Pikmin 3 originally launched in August. I forget when Pikmin 3 Deluxe came out.
Yeah.
But I believe it was in the second half of 2020, I believe it was. But yeah, I think Pikmin 4 does come out, and I think, I'm gonna say I think they maintain the three captains. I think they maintain the three captains. I think we got a little glimpse of Brittany. She might be returning in the game. I think we see their return. Maybe we see Louis. Louis would be great, but we'll see. Maybe the Hawk could take captain. But
Yeah.
yeah, I think the game comes out. I think it's set. I think it's set on a planet we haven't been to before. It's not gonna be. I forget what the name of the planet was.
Yeah,
in Pikmin 3.
I forget the name too.
But it's not gonna be set there. You're not gonna have to worry about that final area.
Yeah,
But,
the final boss again.
but yeah, it was. I'm looking forward to Pikmin 4 whenever it releases, and I am. That's a game. I think of all the games we've really discussed here that are slated for this year, I think it's the likeliest one to get delay. Simply because we mostly know about the first half, but also because with Pikmin, they're never shy. It feels like to delay that.
Yeah.
So that's what I think we'll see from there.
Yeah, and it'll definitely be interesting to see. I know you mentioned earlier too about the camera angle. I remember that from the trailer as well. They were talking about that briefly. I think it'll be interesting to see how it turns out in the end. And the three captains, I think, could be cool too to have that again. I personally didn't play Pikmin 3 Deluxe on the Switch. I played Pikmin 3 on the Wii U, so I'm wondering like how easy it would be on the Switch to like control multiple captains again, because I know on the Wii U it was pretty simple to just use the gamepad, draw out the route, all that. So it would be interesting though, just to see how it all works.
Yeah, I just want to clarify here. So Pikmin 3 Deluxe released in October of 2020, and the name of the plan was PNF 404. I always remember the fantastic intro sequence to Pikmin 3. Maybe they can return that and that narrator again. But certainly I think they'll maintain a lot of the series traditions. We'll see new Pikmin. We'll see, the same whistle come back and the ability to switch captains. One, I believe, was the only game where you only controlled one character, which was Olimar.
Yeah, it was only Olimar.
But yeah, I'm really excited for this game. I think Pikmin's another franchise that doesn't get enough love. Although Pikmin 3 Deluxe was the best selling in the franchise. So I think Pikmin 4 can easily surpass that.
Nice. Yeah, that's good to hear.
And I will put in another prediction. This is this isn't the riskiest prediction I have. I'll save that for last. Okay. But I'm going to put it out there. I think we finally see another F-Zero announced this year. And it's not developed by Nintendo. It's published by Nintendo. It's developed by Shin'en Multimedia. If you're not familiar with them, they're the people who made the Fast series. Fast RMX was a Switch launch title, and that game was fantastic. The online's dead now, but if you played it back at launch, you likely know what I mean. Just super, looked great. A lot of F-Zero elements there. The ability to switch colors, and just the tracks were so good. I think Shinnen's more than capable. And we've seen Nintendo team up with developers for IP before. We're seeing WayForward work on Advance Wars. We saw the developers make Cadence of Hyrule with the Zelda IP. Of course, we're seeing Mario Maker, the Mario movie. So this isn't unprecedented. It's certainly not. I think Shinnen's a small team. Maybe this game isn't full on $60, and I know Shinnen just released a new game that was recently revealed in the indie world. Yeah, I think we finally see a new F-Zero. I don't think it's a port. I think it's a new game, and it will be great. It'll kind of fill that void I think a lot of Nintendo fans have felt with Mario Kart, being the only major racing title that Nintendo has on their plate. And again, I think we'll see it this year. I don't think it comes out. I think they're going to take as long as they need for this. This could easily be a 2020.
Yeah, I feel like this if they did announce like a brand new F-Zero game, that would definitely be a pretty crazy announcement for sure. I think it would generate a ton of hype because, like you said, like it's been, I think it's at least 15-20 years since the last F-Zero game came out, the last brand new one.
It's been a while. It's been too long. I, for one, have never played an F-Zero game aside from the brief 5 minutes I spent with F-Zero on the Switch Online. I would love to see what all the fuss is about. I'd love to
Yeah.
see the games where Captain Falcon is from.
Yeah.
It'd be fantastic to experience a series that I don't even think this isn't gonna be, your 20 million seller, but
Oh, yeah.
not everything needs to be. And I think if this has a great online infrastructure, I think if this has a good community network and a good story perhaps, or just great levels and just track design and good controls, I think they could be onto something. And I
Yeah.
think this could be another great Switch multiplayer game to add to the list of an increasingly growing one.
Oh yeah, for sure. Yeah, F-Zero GX, amazing game for sure. Great racing. And yeah, I think also too now with how popular Smash Bros is and Captain Falcon, being in Smash Bros, and he's gained a ton of popularity from the series. I think it would definitely be like a good sort of launch point for them to bring back F-Zero and show people that are newer to the series, Smash Bros and all that, like this is the series where Captain Falcon comes from, like they could almost kind of use it as like a selling point sort of. So
No, I think if they include him with the game, or maybe even on the cover art, I think there'll be a lot of people that go into a store, similar to what happened with Fire Emblem originally. Hey,
Yeah.
I know that character from Smash. Let me try out his game. And then that's
Exactly.
automatically, a new sale. That's someone you get invested in the franchise.
yeah.
And again, I've heard nothing but good things, mostly about the F-Zero franchise, and I'd love to experience it. I really
Oh, yeah.
would. So hopefully it comes through. That's a prediction. Of really all these on this list, that's one of them I'd like to see happen mostly because I don't have a lot of experience with the F-Zero franchise, and
Yeah.
I'd love to, finally try it out and see whether I like it or not. But I'll put out another prediction here, and this one's a bit different. This isn't necessarily Nintendo related, but it does affect them. I want to talk a bit about the Activision Blizzard deal. Now, this has gone through a lot of litigation. Of course, back almost a year ago, Microsoft announced that they were purchasing Activision, of course, the makers of Call of Duty, for roughly $70 billion.
Yeah.
I do think that deal is going to go through. I know the FTC just filed a lawsuit, but I think the deal is actually going to go through,
Yeah.
but not in 2023. I don't think it's going to happen this year, even as much as Microsoft wants it to, and as much as they're going to push for it. It's not going to happen. But the reason I really bring this up is because Microsoft had stated that Call of Duty would be on Switch for 10 years
Yeah.
if the deal goes through. And I mainly put this out there saying I don't think we'll see a Call of Duty on Switch this year, mainly because there is none slated for this year, or at least that's the rumor. But certainly once these do come out, we will see it. And that'll start next year. But I guess the big prediction here is that these versions are going to be cloud versions. They're not going to be native. Because the way these Call of Duty games look, I mean, if you see Modern Warfare 2, I mean, just absolutely gorgeous. And the texture, I just don't see Microsoft or Activision wanting to go through what they could feel is a hassle of putting those games on Switch.
Yeah.
But certainly I do think this deal will go through, and we'll see Call of Duty games come back to a Nintendo platform for the first time in a while.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I agree with that about the cloud version. I think it would definitely be a cloud version. It would be kind of funny if they sort of did it like the Wii versions where they like made a, kind of like a demake of the game and, made it specifically tailored for the Wii, but I don't think that they would go through the hassle, as you said, or like the resources to do that. I think it would just be easier for them to just do a cloud version of those games.
Yeah, and I don't necessarily know if it would be, wouldn't it be, I don't think it would be received well after what we saw with Kingdom Hearts, but I think it would be a way for Microsoft to fulfill this. I will be brutally honest, I was surprised when Microsoft said this, because I don't think Nintendo was necessarily opposed to this deal. They've always kind of abide by the philosophy, we're going to let, Microsoft and Sony kind of do their own thing, we're going to do ours.
Yeah.
Of course, the Switch launched at a different time than the PS5 and the Xbox Series X. Nintendo's very much doing their own thing.
Yeah.
I don't think they're worried too much about the Call of Duty franchise. I don't think that's making them lose sleep.
Yeah.
But to see this announcement, I was taken, I was surprised. But if it ends up going well, if these versions are perhaps native, maybe Microsoft will make a few more concessions to really make Sony look bad in this scenario, because Sony is very much the one I think campaigning for this deal not to go through. If there's more concessions they make to work with Nintendo, maybe bring another massive franchise to the Switch, I think that could maybe promise that all future, the next 2 Crash games will be on Switch. They could do perhaps something like that to make the FTC go through.
No, that's I definitely could see that happening for sure.
Now, what's you got any more predictions to sort of go through?
I guess the last one I'll say, it's kind of what we've sort of been talking about it a little bit throughout the show, but it was kind of just in general, with this being, at least in my prediction and yours if I remember correctly, this being the last like full year of the Switch, I'm thinking that they're really gonna focus more on the DLC launches this year, like the one that I predicted with like Tears of the Kingdom and like Splatoon 3, things like that. Maybe the Kirby one that you predicted, something like that. I'm thinking they're really going to focus more on DLC, digital content like that, and they're going to shift, because they want to shift more teams towards developing new games for Switch 2 and stuff like that, is what I'm thinking. There's sort of some restructuring happening within the company is what I'm thinking right now.
Well, that's a good prediction. I think as development winds down on the Switch, I think they're gonna want to put out the smaller titles in the form of DLC, for the games we mentioned, and maybe some that we haven't mentioned that have yet to be revealed or come out yet. So I think that's certainly a good chance. I think prioritizing DLC gives developers, more time to go through with the larger team to work on a larger title that they could come out with on the Switch's successor.
And I do think that Tears of the Kingdom will probably be like the last like super big AAA title on the Switch. I don't think there's going to be another huge title like this coming out on the console.
I would agree. To someone like me, where I play a bunch of content, a game like Pikmin or something like Metroid may personally be more important to me, or a segment of gamers out there, but certainly I think Tears of the Kingdom is going to be their largest in terms of budget, in terms of sales. I agree. I think that's likely the final like large game to come out of the Switch, simply because of the pedigree behind it and because of how much hype there is. That game's been hyped since before it was announced. So but I do have one more prediction here before we get into the hopes, and I almost saved the best for last. Because with Nintendo, they know they're kind of unpredictable. But a few years ago, they announced this sort of peripheral that would help you in your sleep. And that's sort of, gone under, they've kind of forgotten about that. You know what? That thing is still real. It's still real. According to Eurogamer, I remember I read an article, this would be a mobile device that would sit by your bed, monitor your sleep performance, do a myriad other tasks. I don't know what form this is going to take, but I think it's real. And you know what? It's going to launch alongside the long-awaited, eagerly anticipated Pokémon Sleep. So this device, much like the Pokemon Go Plus Ball, is going to launch alongside Pokemon Sleep. I don't think that's necessarily gonna, go over well. It's not gonna be the next big thing, but maybe it is. Maybe Nintendo's gonna turn into a new sleep company. But that's my final prediction. We finally see this peripheral come through.
That's a funny one. I honestly, I totally just forgot about that peripheral. Like, I forgot that it existed.
Well, it's a patent. It's a patent. The thing is,
I totally just forgot about that whole thing, and that would make me laugh if, like, during a direct or something, they were like, Nintendo Sleep. But that's funny.
Imagine it's like the best thing to come out of the company
I know,
in years.
Like, That would be crazy, honestly. Totally unexpected and just funny, honestly.
I just have no clue what they can do with this, because
Yeah,
when you
like
have companies like Fitbit and Apple just improving the watch, improving their ability to monitor your sleep, I mean, the
yeah,
technology in these things is extraordinary.
yeah,
And already consumers are being attracted to them and keep buying them
yeah,
to improve their sleep. I have a friend who constantly tells me, my Fitbit tracks this with my sleep. It helps me to improve this and that. I don't know what
yeah.
Nintendo can do or the Pokemon company can do to improve that, but you know what? That's what competition's all about, right?
Yeah,
So maybe they come up with something that it's got to be something I've never thought of,
yeah,
because
yeah,
I don't know where this would belong in the marketplace. I don't know if it would even be smart for them to do it, but you know what?
yeah,
Nintendo's always been one to kind of experiment. So
yeah. You never know. It might be maybe they have some kind of like Switch Fit game or something, like Wii Fit, and it does something
that's
with
a
like
good
tracking your sleep, or at least that's an aspect of it. And you can use maybe like the Ring Fit controller or something like that in addition to it, but who knows?
That's actually a good idea. Maybe this coincides with Ring Fit or Nintendo Switch
Yeah,
Sports or maybe fitness boxing.
exactly.
Find a way to coincide the way you sleep into the game.
Yeah, yeah,
Um, how they do that, I don't know, but certainly with Ring Fit, if they found a way, that game's already been wildly successful. Maybe they
yeah,
make another DLC for that game and find a
yeah,
way to implement this device into it. That could be interesting. That could
yeah,
be an interesting way to go about it. And Ring Fit, of course, has been super successful, more successful, I think, than Nintendo even thought it would be.
yeah.
So they
Oh
could
yeah,
produce those rings again and
yeah.
go back at it, release some new software.
I know. Yeah, that would be pretty funny.
Now, we're going to transition to hopes here. This is going to be a shorter segment. I don't have too many hopes. I'm going to start off
Yeah,
with the Mario movie. Now, I got to be honest, this movie has actually impressed me. I think it's impressed a lot of people with what
yeah,
we've seen so far. For me, I'm already sold. I've seen enough. I'm ready to go see this in theaters. I just hope it has a satisfying story. That's what I hope. I hope the story's not cheesy. I hope it's genuinely, heartfelt. I hope that, it has good characters. I hope the voice acting's good. I just hope it's an enjoyable story. That's my biggest hope for it.
yeah, yeah. I agree. I think that I've definitely sold on the movie so far. And at first I obviously, like, as they were kind of going through the cast and their respective characters, there was some that I was like, really? Like, obviously the big one, Chris Pratt as Mario, that was kind of like, at
Still
first
can't believe that.
I was like, that's just nuts that they don't got Charles Martinet doing it. But yeah, like, I mean, through the trailers that they've shown, it's definitely exceeded like what my thoughts were before seeing anything about it. So I'm happy about that, and I do hope that it will just genuinely be like a success, and I hope it'll be good and fun to watch.
I do think it'll be a success. I know there was a lot of talk about this maybe the best, most successful video game adaptation of all time.
Yeah,
I'm not entirely sure of what the numbers are for that, but I think it'll be up there. I think it'll be
yeah,
up there. I think this
yeah,
movie is going to do incredibly well. I think there's obviously Illumination, wildly successful. Whether you like the Minions IP or
mhm,
Despicable Me, you can't deny the success of those
yeah.
movies. Many of them have raked in over $1 billion.
Oh
So
yeah,
I think they're sitting on cash with this one, and the cash is about to roll out.
yeah,
And I, for one, am incredibly excited. Again, we've talked about it. Everything this movie's done to this point, for the most part, has looked really good. A lot of cool references in there. I know we just saw like a Mario Kart thing. That this
yeah,
movie, and the sheer, I gotta say, the way this movie looks, just aesthetically, and the way it's presented, it looks just fantastic. I mean,
yeah,
it really feels like they've fully realized the Mushroom Kingdom and done a great job with it.
yeah,
And now I'll go into my next hope here. And this coincides with what I was saying previously, as well as the Mario movie. I want them to further license their IP. Nintendo's got a lot better with this over the last few years. It kind of started with, or at least it felt like it started with Hyrule Warriors back at the Wii U era, allowing other developers to experiment with their massive franchises like Zelda and now Mario. And I hope that continues. I hope we see, the Shin'en prediction come true, or see other developers sort of take their IP, because Nintendo has so much IP, you can't possibly work on all of them at the same time at their office. So branch them out. Maybe have someone else do Donkey Kong. Maybe have someone else work on the next Metroid installment. We saw this with Mercury Steam, which was fantastic. But yeah, I'd love to see them license their IP. And whether it's just in the form of games or whether it's something else, maybe like a really cool board game or something along those lines. Of course, we've seen Universal Hollywood. They've done a great job with this, I think, over the past several years. I want them to continue doing it as well.
Yeah, that would be really cool to see what kind of products would come out of this, like you said, games or anything else. But yeah, especially for me, the games would be kind of interesting, because it would just be interesting to see like how another company would handle these like IPs and things like that, like what kind of interesting things they could do with it.
Is there do you think there's a company in particular you'd really want to handle like a specific franchise?
Honestly, I don't know. I guess maybe one would be, it would be kind of interesting to see kind of like Atlas maybe try their hand at like, I don't know, maybe like a Fire Emblem game or some kind of like RPG like that, or even the Mario and Luigi games or something. If they made like their own Mario and Luigi RPG, that would be kind of interesting. But yeah, I feel like, at least in my opinion, Atlas right now has been like killing it with the RPGs, and so like I think it would be cool to see them even one of their IPs that's not like an RPG, like I don't know, if they made some kind of like Zelda like turn-based RPG or something like that, or like I don't know, Star Fox, like something crazy like that. It would be cool to see just how other companies could put their own twist on things like that.
No, Atlas is a fantastic idea. They've really knocked it out of the park, I think, lately with their installments. I know Shin Megami Tensei 5 was well received. Of course, Persona has been taken to a whole other level with the release of Persona 5. They're just coming out now with the remasters of 3 and 4 for modern platforms, which is incredibly exciting. That would be a really cool idea, to see Atlas finally get their hands on one of Nintendo's beloved IP. Yeah. And my last... Well, actually, I'm going to sort of get this into one. My biggest hope for Nintendo is, or at least one of them, is that I want them to reveal, and I've clamored for this for a while now, I want to see them reveal a new single-player AAA IP. And how this comes in the form, I'm not entirely sure. I'd love to see something along the lines of Uncharted or The Last of Us that's story-driven, where the gameplay is great as well, that really immerses you in this world. I think Nintendo have done a good job with multiplayer IP over the last several years with Splatoon and ARMS. I want to see them do something single-player related that's in the form of something like this, just really big budget, huge attention paid to it. I'd really love to see that. And above all, just something unexpected. I think this would be decently unexpected for them. I would just love to see a new IP in the form of a single-player experience, because frankly, I think that's what we've been lacking with the Nintendo Switch up until this point. We haven't had that real big, system, software that really differentiates it from Nintendo, I think, at this point. And I'd personally love to see it.
Yeah. Yeah, actually, that was one of my hopes, that they were going to make some kind of brand new IP. I want it to definitely, like, have that kind of just strange Nintendo feeling that, they so magically create with a lot of their games. And I think it would be cool to see just a very like story-driven game, like you were saying, that's just a single-player experience, and just something huge in scope would be kind of cool.
No, I think it would be great. I know a lot of people are probably listening to this thinking they're already doing something similar with Metroid Prime. Don't get me wrong. Prime series is, it's widely well received and it sells decently well, but I want to see something with a new IP. And that's something I think Nintendo's been lacking. But again, those games are great. Nintendo has so many franchises they can go into, but I'd love to see something different, something truly risky. And it would just be great. But I think above all, my biggest hope is to be surprised in a good way. I think Nintendo's done a good job of surprising people over the course of their company's history. You know, that's really been their focal point, is to surprise gamers with wonderful experiences, and that lasts for years to come. And I hope that continues this year. I hope we see a major new announcement, preferably in the form of software that's like, I did not know I needed that, but I want it. That's something unexpected, and I cannot wait. Similar to what the last time I really experienced that was with Splatoon. That when that game was announced, I was instantly on board, and it's one of my favorite games of all time. So certainly one of the games that's meant the most to me over the course of my experience growing up. And I really hope, you know, a similar feeling is evoked over the course of the next 12 months. But again, new IP, I understand it's incredibly difficult, but I'd love to see it.
Yeah, that's awesome. One of my hopes, I would say, for Nintendo, would be to publish like more unique games, not necessarily made, you know, internally by Nintendo, but other like second party developers, things like that. Like, for example, one of the most recent games I just played was Sin & Punishment Star Successor on the Wii. And that was a fantastic on-rails shooter developed by Treasure, published by Nintendo. And it would be awesome if they like I hope that they publish like more games. So it's not necessarily like in that style, but more just kind of unique things that Nintendo themselves wouldn't necessarily make. Maybe more mature type of things, sort of darker things, genres that they wouldn't normally make, things like, you know, I don't know, shooters, something like that. But I hope that they do more publishing like that of just unique, weird games, and even heck like Chibi Robo on the GameCube, or like Geist or something, like all those random games like that they published back in the day.
You know, I think that the indie scene is a great example of this. I think the indie scene really right now is where a lot of the creativity in the industry is coming from. Yeah, particularly when you're seeing so many AAA sequels that are rinse repeat, it feels like, every year. And I think Nintendo could learn something from their amazing independent partners, that there is a lot to innovate, and there's a lot of ways you can be creative. And I agree with you. I'd love to see a lot of series that take risks. You know, like Chibi Robo, something like Sin & Punishment.
My last hope I'll share is, I hope that they release Pikmin 1 and 2 on the Switch as like a double pack or something, just because I can't get enough of Pikmin, and it would be awesome to have Pikmin on the go like that. And that's my only hope right there.
That would be great. I mean, look, Pikmin 3 already was released on Switch. Obviously, it can work with the Pro Controller. They can find a way to make it work with the Joy-Con as well. I personally haven't played Pikmin 1 or 2, so I would love to play them. Well, you know, you mentioned a double pack. They probably released both of them at $60, knowing Nintendo. But yeah, that would be great to see. I don't think it's gonna happen, because I feel like they would have announced that by now. But it's certainly possible for this year or down the line. And I, for one, would love to see it. Again, you know, if you want to drive up sales, this is one of the best ways to do it, is to release prior installments in a franchise and to let people experience it. And I don't know of too many people who will probably say that the original Pikmins don't hold up today. So
yeah, for sure. Yeah, like I mean, it would, like I said, it would just be awesome to have those games like on the go and just to be able to play them. I kind of agree. I do think it probably won't happen, but that's why it's a hope for me. You know, it's kind of a pipe dream, I guess. I mean, maybe if Pikmin 4 comes out and it sells like crazy or something, does really well, like maybe it'll be a possibility. But yeah,
I think certainly it's on the table for something that can happen in the future. But we shall see. But those are all of our hopes and predictions. I want to ask you, Steven, as we end off here, how are you feeling now about 2023? Are you feeling better? Are you feeling worse? What do you think about this year? You think it's going to be a good one?
I'm feeling more excited now after this, for sure, because just discussing like what could potentially happen or like things that we hope to see. It's always fun, and it gets me so hyped up for the year to come, you know, and to see it like, oh, were we right about this thing that we predicted, or oh, we were wrong about this. So, you know, like it was just, it'll be fun to just go through the year now and see what happens.
No, I agree. I think this year is already set up to be one of the greatest years, frankly, in gaming history across multiple platforms. And I think Nintendo's not going to be an exception. I think we already have a lot of great games coming out. Tears of the Kingdom is likely going to sweep all the Game of the Year awards. I think that game's going to be fantastic, and I can't wait for it. But there's a lot of surprises left. We don't know what's coming out in the second half of the year, or at least we barely know of anything that's coming out. And Nintendo's bound to have a few surprises down the way. So I can't wait. I'm sure we'll likely be discussing a lot of it down the line. But that is it for this discussion. Steven, once again, it was a pleasure to be here with you. Seriously, thank you so much. Where can people find you online?
You can find me on Twitter. It's at StevenT29. And that's it, really.
And you can find me on Twitter and Instagram at TrueMRichardson, as well as various other platforms, including SoundCloud as Michael Richardson 0206. Be sure to check out Michael's blog, where you can find even more gaming-centric content. But that is all for now. Thank you all so much for tuning in. Stay well.